Okay, good afternoon, everybody. It's 1 o'clock. Welcome to the Porter County Development Review Committee here on December 10th, 1 p.m., Porter County Administration Center. Ladies and gentlemen, we have two cases before us today, and then we'll talk about scheduling of our meeting in 2025 at the end. So, first case before us today, Timothy and Monica Evans, 147 East, 500 South, Valparaiso, Indiana, Morgan Township. R1 Low Density Family District, 5 acres. This will be an informal review, maybe for the board's information. This case started out at the BZA on a use variance to allow schooling on the property. We'll let the petitioner describe all that to you. That the BZA referred the matter to the DRC to give technical guidance to the petitioner. It is not any passing of any judgment or any motions or anything required. It's simply giving technical knowledge so they can report back to the BZA. So, with that, petitioner, come forward, introduce yourself, name and address, and maybe tell us a little what you want to do.
May I have that come up?
Sure, certainly.
And I did prepare. I didn't copy enough a report of the property and everything. But,
Sure, go ahead. Maybe one, two for these gentlemen. So, mind you, we'd like to hear what your operation is. You heard what BZA had to say as some of the technical issues.
yes.
Life safety, septic, and all that. That's what we're going to address today.
Yeah.
So, with that, why don't you give us a summary of your what you plan to do?
Okay. So what our desire is, and we actually started because I didn't know that we couldn't, in the sense of a homeschool co-op, changing from last year's initiation of being a private school. With the new changes in the state, we just became a special education homeschool co-op for kids that have special needs. And did not understand that that required a variance because we were homeschooling. So that's why we're here. It wasn't that I was trying to negate the system. Just according to the Parents' Rights Bill and ours, I had a misunderstanding of what that would look like. And so that significantly changed the direction of what we were going to do. So now we just serve a minimal number of students that have special needs, and they all have an IEP or individual educational plan, and they vary from dyslexia to autism, and not severe. So we are not there to deal with severe children, but ones that just need a different environment, such as farming and animal. Currently, we host 3 full days a week, Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, which we call educational days. Well, right now we have 23 students because we had some kids that are really sick and are unable to attend. One with a brain disease, and he is now has to homeschool completely at home. So that's where we are at 22 students, 3 days, full days, and then Mondays and Fridays we have what's called a shortened day. And either we do some field trips or we have special trades coming, carpentry, farmers, that kind of stuff that we do. And parents have the choice to keep them home. So on Mondays and Fridays, we typically have 15 to 16 kids because a lot of parents still are doing homeschool and they keep those students at home with them to do a different type of extracurricular activity. So that is where we are. Our space, we have 2 people that live full-time on the property, which is my daughter and son-in-law. They live in the ranch portion of the building, which is a 2-bedroom, 2-bath on that portion. Then the rest of the space is just utilized by us homeschooling micro school with the kids that we have there. We have 1 parent teacher. I am one of the cohort leads, and then we have another specialist that's there. And then we have parents because, again, as a homeschool, parents are required to be a participate, and so they either come in on a rotation or help out in that way as well. So approximately, given a day, we may have 4 to 5 vehicles um, that come and enter our space.
How do the students get to the?
So parents, we have 3 carpools. So we have one parent set that they have 11 children, which you met at the last meeting. And so because they have 3 different spaces, they bring some of the kids. They have 4 students at our school, and then they carpool the rest of the kids from Lowell and that are in Cedar. So they carpool Cedar Lake and Lowell and their kids portion. Then we have another parent that has 10 kids, and they carpool our Crown Point kids. And then we have another parent that carpools our Merrillville. And then we have one parent from LaPorte, they bring their kids. And then we have another parent from Crown Point. He has autism, so she doesn't want him to drive by himself. So those are the vehicles that enter our property.
How many vehicles is that total?
For drop off and pickup per day, 5.
Okay. And what is your hours of operation these 5 days?
So Mondays and Fridays we are from 9:15 to 2. Then Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays we are from 8:30 till 2:50. And that will change in January. We are going to 3 days. So we will only be operating Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays starting January when we come back January 10th. Um, and the hours will be from 8:30 to 2:50.
Then this summer, as a residential property, you did come in and get a permit to do remodeling.
Correct.
How is
Yes.
that progressing?
It's all good. And so Mike already did some. He already came and did the demolition of the barn. He already has come in and checked the electrical and stuff, and he will come in and finish up. I assume hopefully tomorrow the
You're not
bathroom.
completely done yet.
So we're finished. We didn't call him back to finish doing the approval.
Very
Yes.
okay. I think from the BZA, the main concerns were the septic, which Mr. Boyd will address, traffic coming in and out.
Correct.
Staff probably would be posing some questions with regard to that, plus life safety and the way the building's set up with exit signs and alarms and everything else like that. So I'll let the committee and staff ask you some questions, and if you could kindly give them, and they'll probably give you some direction along the way. So with that, we'll start with David.
Can I say something?
Sure.
I just want to let everyone know this is informal review and it's due to the zoning. So we need to focus that it's not the proper use in that zoning district. So that's where we're focused on. I want everyone to realize that.
Good point.
It's not so much about the school statistics and what she knows and what she has. It's more about it's not being used properly with that zoning district.
Okay, David.
Martin and I took a trip out there yesterday. A couple things to point out that we saw. One, just so you're aware, the downstream side of your driveway culvert looks like it has some possible root damage from that tree. I would imagine if you haven't seen anything during a storm event, it's probably still passable, just something to keep an eyeball on. As we discussed, if anything on from the development side, the impervious actually decreased on the site due to the demolition of that prior structure. And then as you move forward, as far as my role is concerned, if you were to ever, expand or more impervious coverage was needed, that would be something that you would come and work with our office on at that time. But I don't have any other comment for what we're discussing today.
Dan, I'll pause on you. Let you put the bang. Kevin.
Well, yeah, we need to get back to Dan for the septic. Part of the concern I raised before when you came in front of Plan Commission was fire safety, making sure you have the appropriate smoke alarms and other appurtenances. I asked you to visit with the local firefighting authority. Just as a reminder, we don't have public water supply here, so you don't have the fire flows if a fire should occur. We have to always think worst case scenario,
Right.
and hopefully make our public entities aware of what parts of the house or the building your activities are taking place, so the first responders know where they need to be or what the layout is, and some kind of understanding to you.
I think the BZA asked you to reach out to the fire department.
Yes, we did.
Done that.
Yes, and we did, and they were able to get back with us yesterday, so they're coming out tomorrow.
Very good. Okay.
Anything else, Kevin?
Yeah, just be aware, we're looking at this picture with this kind of a gold color to it. That's probably a wetland,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a lot of flow that comes through there as the owner.
Yes, and we cleared.
You just want to be aware of how much water can be coming through there from the fields from the northwest. The Catholic Church owns a large parcel north, and I'm not sure if Hoffman's or who owns the property around it at this time, but it's a very large amount of water that goes out that way, goes under the culvert,
Mm-hmm.
Fall Creek.
So so it's almost been 2 years now. I've been able to watch it. We did get it cleared out, because the family there before had dumped a significantly amount of stuff. It just was dumping ground of garbage and trash. So 4 months ago, we cleared it all out, so it is clean and free, so that there would be no stop it, so that it would be able to flow. And so even the deepest portion during our deepest rain still maybe have a foot and a half.
Well, since you brought it up, what did you do with the material you removed?
So we ordered a lot of dump trailers to have to remove. It took us thousands and thousands of dollars to remove all of the garbage. Mm-hmm.
Where was it taken to?
So we hired the waste dump trailer guys
Okay.
to the what is it, Indiana Waste. Yeah.
I just want to make sure that wasn't just called off
No, we
or something.
no. If you need to see receipts and stuff, no.
Thank you.
We hired Indiana Waste.
Martin and Jim?
Yeah, as Dave said, we made a site visit yesterday. The only issue from the highway perspective that I saw would be the existing driveway width. If you're changing the use to a non-residential use per the UDO, you'd need a 24-foot wide minimum driveway width at right-of-way line. I just stepped off out there. It looks like it was about 19 to 20 feet, so it might need to be widened a little bit. Outside of that, any improvements would need to be per the county cross-section standards as well, if it were to be widened.
Okay.
Outside of that, I didn't have any other comments. There's a existing culvert that Dave pointed out as well, so the drainage seems like it is passing all right. Jim?
All right, I'm sorry, but I missed you got the fire department coming out tomorrow?
Yeah.
That's Morgan Township, not Valpo.
Correct.
That's
Yes.
coming out. Okay. I just want to make sure that you are aware it's serviced by a volunteer fire department.
Yes.
And the other issue or comment I would have is the intersection at Sturdy Road and Division. So the one you're going to be coming in and out of here is a pretty hairy intersection, just because of the way it jogs, and there's no four-way stop right there because it's not a justified four-way stop. So that's something that I would be concerned about as far as highway would be the increased traffic at that intersection. And then at the corner coming down here,
That bend.
there are people that slide off of that and go into that yard right down there at that corner. Because there are times in the winter when it snows that we don't get a snowplow down that road till probably 9:30, 10 o'clock in the morning.
And so we had the last one, and the nice thing about an autonomy of a school is that you just cancel it. So we looked at all of those things, looking at the wind and everything. And even when we had the first one, I did an early release. So as soon as I saw it come down, I just texted all the parents and said, "Come get your kids before it gets bad."
Okay. Yeah, because that road, the hayfield, that's 1.5 lots north of you. There's a hayfield there, and that road drifts real quick.
Yeah.
So that would be one of the concerns I would have, especially if you're moving kids in and out of that through in a snowstorm event.
Yeah.
So yeah, those are the concerns I would have.
Very good.
That did bring up the other thing that I noticed. It looks like you have T turnarounds there, and I would just, if this were to be formally reviewed, I just want to confirm that those are good for fire truck access. They meet the
Yes.
standards for.
And we leave them open purposefully. Like we didn't put anything there purposefully. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Sounds good.
One for my tractor.
Thank you.
Okay, with staff, Christy, you have anything to add?
No.
Monica? Kurt? Very well. Dan, it's all yours.
All right. So at the local level, besides residential septic systems, once you start using a structure for something other than residential, it now becomes considered commercial. So the existing septic that's there may not be sufficiently sized for the usage that you're utilizing the home for right now. I realize you're living there residentially. You know, there's people living there as residents, but you're bringing in people from outside and, you know, to do this. So normally what you have to do is the state has to determine whether your septic system is sized appropriately for what you're using the structure for. So I see in your report here that you say that your septic, your tank and your drainage has more than enough capacity, but have you had anyone out to actually locate your septic system?
Yes.
Who did that? And then also they should have done a sketch to show how much square footage you have, what your tank capacity is, and they should have signed off on that, because that's something we're going to need to see, because the state is going to ask for that, because ultimately, because this is beyond a residential, it's not a family living there and you're just homeschooling the people that, you know, the children that live there. You're bringing in people outside, so that automatically takes it to the state level. So what the state's going to ask for is they're going to want to know what's there in terms of a septic field, and you may have to get soil borings and submit those to the state and hire a registered soil scientist. And the other thing is they may have you have an Iowa certified septic inspection done on the property and submit that to them. And they're going to look at that information and they're going to ask you how many people are there teaching, how many students are you bringing in, how many people are living there full time, and they're going to take all those numbers into consideration, and they're going to determine whether your septic system is sufficiently sized for what you're doing in the home. And if it's not, they're going to give you specs for a new septic system. And what'll have to happen then is once they give you the specs for a new system, depending on the sizing of the system and the type of system, either you're going to have to hire a surveyor, do a site plan, either the state will review it or will review it depending on sizing and type of system. And then in either case, we would issue the septic permit and we would do inspection on the system, the installation of the system. If it's so, that's something you're going to have to do. Is you're going to have to get this information together, you know, prove what's there existing in terms of your existing septic system, and the state's going to have to determine whether it's sufficiently sized or not. If it is not, they're going to say you have to put a new septic system in. Because I've looked multiple times. We do not have any record of the system that's on this property, so I don't know if it's sized appropriately. I don't know what size tank is there. I don't know if there's enough laterals. Even for if it was to remain residential, I know nothing about this septic system because there's nothing on file. Our records go back to 1974, and we have nothing on file for this residence. So, whether it's, and you know, sometimes with concern there is with some old farmhouses and stuff, sometimes it's a tank with a pipe that goes out into a farm field tile and that goes out into a ditch or a creek somewhere. I don't know. So that's part of the concern with, you know, in regards to the septic system, what is going on here with the property, and the fact that you're bringing in additional people, because that's increased wastewater use. It's more people using the restroom. It's more people washing hands. If you're preparing meals there, and washing dishes, it's more dishes. It's an increased wastewater load, and since we size residentially, we size by number of bedrooms. The state sizes by what you're utilizing the space for. So they'll say it's so many gallons per day per student, so many gallons per, and they'll add that up, so many gallons per day per teacher, and what you're using there. So it's not equivalent to a family living there. There's going to be additional usage there, and the state's going to have to determine that per the commercial code through Indiana Department of Health.
So, so it would be additional usage.
It's additional. I mean, it's additional wastewater flow. I mean, I looked up in tax records, and according to tax records, this is a 2-bedroom house.
Oh, but it's not.
I know, but
Even if it's vacant, I mean, even if there's nobody living,
Like nobody lives on that. So
I mean, if
no usage.
yeah,
there's none.
if you're using it for something other than a residential property, it's got to go through the state. If you're using it as a residential property and you have a family of 4 living there or whatever, because residentially we size it by number of bedrooms, and it's so many gallons per day. It's 150 gallons per day per bedroom. You times that by the number of bedrooms. That's your gallons per day, and then depending on what the soils are, that's how we size a septic system residentially. Commercial, it's different, and that actually has to go through the state. So, if you're using it for something other than just a residential home, it's going to have to go through the state to determine if the system there is correctly sized for what you're utilizing the structure for.
Because currently we're using way less than if we had 14 people living in the house for what the occupancy could hold.
Well, technically, the state says it's 2 people per bedroom. So if this is a 4-bedroom house, it would be sufficient for 8 people.
It's a 6-bedroom.
So 6 would be sufficient for 12 people.
Correct.
But
at 100 gallons per person per day.
Well, no, that's the problem is when I look at it, I'm sizing it by number of bedrooms. So I'm saying 150 gallons per bedroom.
Can we just get a report? So
Well, yes.
That's what we need to do.
And I will put something in writing.
People and adults.
Right.
What we need to know is what she has on the property.
Exactly.
And finalize and get it from, like you said, a registered.
Yep. I mean, so they're going to want to know what's there. So they're going to want to see a sketch of what's there in terms of the field.
Have that, and that will help you.
Exactly.
So my I used JC well and septic that put our new well in. Would that be a certain?
Okay, so when did they put the new well in? Because
November.
Okay, and did you get a permit from us?
They did. They came and got a permit.
That's the other thing too, is if this becomes commercial, now your well has to be 100 feet away from where your septic system is. So you have to have more distance between your well.
It is. The well is in the front and the septic is in the back.
Right, but it'll have to meet 100-foot separation.
It is. It's more, way more than it.
I guess what we're saying is,
Do you have a site plan at all for this? On
I have
the Board of Health, you don't have any information where the
I have
tanks are.
information on the
Have you gone on and walked the property and seen where the tanks are? Do you do that at all? Or
We don't. We have you hire like an installer.
I understand, right?
So
But you don't go out.
I'm sorry.
Sign off on it.
But when we did zoning, we did turn it in. We hired McMahon, and they put the report in.
I know.
A year ago.
Okay.
I can resend.
In the health department.
well,
Right.
Yeah, I'll resend McMahon's report.
purpose of today is to give you guidance. What
I'm just explaining how this works and what you're going to have to do if this is what you're going to use the structure for.
Yeah.
Is it's going to have to go through the state.
Okay.
first, I think order of business is find the thing, find out how big it is. I've heard stories that there's 2 systems out there.
Yeah, and there.
Is that true?
Yes, it is.
So you
One
need
is
that.
currently empty, and one is currently the one that we have.
So you have to have that documented. All he's saying is have documented, but the approval is going to come from the state. So that'd be a step you'll have to make.
You may have to close down the other system.
It is.
Using it, but it's got to be properly closed.
It was closed down before we moved on the property, so I don't know.
I get that, and one of the reasons they don't have something is predecessors didn't give records to the health department that they probably should have. I do have a question for Dan pertaining to the state health department. If you have commercial use, then does the kitchen need to be inspected periodically?
I'd have to talk to our foods director about that. The other thing is, just to make you aware, is normally since this was on well, depending on the number of people there, it might be considered a public water source, and she might have to do regular testing and submit those results to IDEM. That's something else that might come of this, depending on the number of people. We'd have to check with IDEM to see, what that number of people is, but it could be considered a public water source, that drinking water well, and then they would have to do like regular testing and submit that to IDEM.
So even if we have, we bought the largest purifying system with, I mean, that's there. I mean, we put a brand new.
I think all he's saying is because of the use, you have to subject yourself to water testing.
Oh, okay.
And
But so if we have the
Department of
purifier,
Environmental Management.
Yeah,
oh, okay.
supported by the state. What he's saying, having designed septic systems in the past, there's a big difference between residential and commercial.
Right.
I for one, can really appreciate it because it's more difficult to get through
Mhm.
with the commercial ones. They have different formula. They probably oversimplified the residential just because we got to do that statewide. But when it comes to commercial purposes, they're a little bit more on guard because they've got a responsibility to protect the public at large. And the same reason why we want to make sure that you work with the local fire department for all of your safety.
Mhm. So the question of, so would it have to be deemed commercial? Do they change? I thought that was a zoning thing.
So that's zoning. So that's where it's different with septic. Anything beyond using it as a residential property is considered commercial. It falls under the state commercial septic code.
If I could interject,
Sure.
what you're before the BZA is a use variance.
Mhm.
So you're taking the use from residential to your school. That now subjects you to what Dan is saying.
So it'll because of still resident. So that's, I'm trying to find the because the balance, because people are living there and
If they were just living there, you're fine.
okay, so
By introducing 20 some other people to that, now you've increased your water use, so you have to properly take care of your septic and your
Mhm.
water.
Yeah.
That's simply put, that's
Mhm.
what it is. So it's not insurmountable, but this is a step you'll have to take as you go forward.
so it's saying that we've increased the water, though we haven't, because actually we use way less than if we were to live there and bathe and do laundry and do dishes.
Because
just because
use.
Because it's being used for something other than residential, then it falls to the state.
Okay.
And they're going to have to determine whether what they're existing is sufficiently sized to handle the amount of wastewater generation in that structure. Does that make-
Okay.
That's the reasoning why.
I just want
And they use
for the
different
asking.
criteria to determine if it's sufficiently sized or not. We use bedrooms residentially, but commercial they're going to use other variables too.
And they're not equal.
Mhm.
No,
Right.
It's
Correct.
oversimplified. It's
complicated.
Correct.
Anything else, Dan?
I mean that's all.
Do you have any questions for us?
No, just trying to make sure that I do you guys have a list that you can provide me with regard to inspectors? Because the person that I had do that, I don't know if they're certified, but they did come
We have a list
inspect
of
every.
installers. I have a list of IOPA certified inspectors. I mean, you can contact me. I'm up on the third floor right now in 308, but you can come up and talk to me after the meeting if you want to wait around. If you want to come in, later this week, I can sit down with you. I can get you the information. I can get you the contacts for the state, and I also have their application that you can fill out and then submit to them along with the other information they're going to want to see, like what you have there in terms of a septic and that kind of stuff. And you would submit that to them, and then they would respond to you through email and everything.
That'd be great. I'll wait till afterwards.
And they generally see
That'll-
me and keep me in the loop, and if there's questions and stuff. So, yeah, you can stop and talk to me, and I can get you all that information.
Okay.
Does anyone else have any other questions or comments? Petitioner, you have any other thing?
No, I think you have anything that you
No.
because I don't know what I don't know. I think that's good. And then so I need some more language. Yeah, on the traffic. So the one you said the 24. So we would probably need to get a permit if we need to widen that. Is what you're saying? Okay.
Right, yeah, because you'd have people are pretty much dropping off and picking up at the same time. So you're going to have vehicles in opposing lanes using the driveway at the same time.
Okay.
So for that, you'd want at least that 24-foot wide to meet the UDO.
And then the
Excuse me a second. That you mentioned when you made your report that was at the right of way line. Now you're talking the entire length.
No, just at the right of way.
yeah, because the other part is pretty wide.
So yeah, this would just be in between the edge of the roadway pavement
Mhm.
and the edge of right of way line. So just that section in there. There's a minimums for the at the right of way line and at the edge of pavement. you'd have to meet those.
Thank you.
And then there was the possible, you said to keep an eye on the one flow where it looked like it was decreased.
The culvert looks like it has some root intrusion from that tree that's up on the higher part of the land there.
Mhm.
It looks like a root kind of shot through that area. So we were kind of pulling some of the grass back to look to see the condition of it. Instead, we saw tree roots sticking out.
So
it might just be something to keep an eyeball on.
because we don't want it to cover the.
You wouldn't want to lose the ability. I mean, it looks like there's a lot of pitch. There's a lot of slope on that line. So it would probably take a while for that to really like show, hey, this is a problem, because it does have, even if the root is blocking some of it, it's at such a pitch that it can probably still carry the flow, but you might just want to keep an eye on that.
David, is that the culvert under the driveway?
Yes.
Exists. So you're also widening the driveway, so you may have to widen the culvert. Make sure you have a good union on the two, so you don't have a gap
Between.
Have a sinkhole develop right in the middle of your.
Okay. Because that comes from that behind my shed and then through and then under.
And you might want to look at replacing everything under the driveway, but that's with your inspection. Yeah, that's
Okay.
a decision you need to make.
Any other points you want to clarify?
I think I
Okay.
understand.
Well, we appreciate you coming in.
Thank you.
I think you will take this to the BZA and report to them, I think is what it is. And I think we will write a summary report of the staff and professionals' finding, give that to them as well. So we wish you luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And it's okay if I sit and wait?
Sure, you can wait. Next on it is case SE 2024-75, Giant Paws Prints Inc., care of Kathy Nolan, 325 East, 200 North, Valparaiso, Indiana, Washington Township. They're zoned I-1 light industrial. They sit on just over 3.1 acres. This is an informal review for an operation of a kennel and to be on private well and septic. We'd kindly state your name and your address and give us a brief summary of your request.
Haley Skalka. I'm with DVG Team, 1155 Troutwine Road in Crown Point, Indiana. And I am representing the client, Kathy Noland, with Giant Paw Prints. Just to summarize, this property, it is a 3.16 acre lot. It is currently zoned I-1, and we are looking to have a special exception on this property to run a kennel. The south property is I-1, the north property is I-1, and then we have agricultural to the east and west. I actually brought some plan sets to
You can hand those out.
Yes.
Great.
And then I guess some building renderings as well that I'll pass out. Sorry.
Have you appeared before any of the other boards or offices
No.
before today?
Thank you.
We'll share.
So for this property, we have already done soil borings for the septic system. It is a 3,590 square foot building that is going to be designed by Milmar Buildings, which we have some building renderings in there as well. There will be a detention pond located on the southwest side, and then some storm drainage on the property as well.
You guys.
Continue.
I guess there is an existing fence on the south side, an existing fence on the east side, and then we also have tree barriers that are existing on the east, west, and primarily on the south side with this very small opening. There will probably be some more trees that will be planted to create a barrier. For this building, there's going to be 3 dog runs in the back. That'll be fenced off with chain link fence, and then there's going to be a screening so that the dogs can go outside and not see anything and bark.
That's 24. So about my fingernail.
Do you want to explain the use and how many people you're going to?
Okay.
Do you have anything more to offer?
Yes,
Yeah.
I'm going to pass it off to Kathy to explain the facility workings a little bit.
We do have another facility in Westville. It's a small facility. It's a home that we renovated into a facility that has 6 kennels, and we have 6 kennels in this facility, with the 7th one would be medical, which is a quarantine. We usually only have 1 or 2 people that are there taking care of the dogs. No one stays the night unless we have a medical dog. We don't leave our dogs out to bark. We just don't. We're always outside with them. In this new facility, we'll have a play area inside for inclement weather during rain, snow. I don't know if we're a giant breed rescue, obviously by the name, figured that out. Great Danes don't like water. We mostly get Great Danes because people don't realize how big they get. The kennels in our old facility are 4x6, and we always worry about happy tail, which usually can't be fixed. We usually have to dock the tail. The kennels in this facility will be 8x8, which lessens the chances of happy tail.
Anything else?
Yeah, I guess to touch on the waste collection that's done on every shift. And then there's also sanitation of the turf that'll be located outside and indoors.
We do have artificial turf at our old facility. Like she said, it's cleaned every shift, rinsed down every shift. There's no smell. We put a bio sand in there so that it doesn't have smell. I did bring pictures. I didn't realize there was going to be so many. I apologize.
Well, let's just say she has to go in front of the BZA. This will be probably back in front of you guys again with the development plan approval. Right now it's informal review because for our code, she has to have a special exception before she can build this building. So she wanted to run it by you guys, see if there's any concerns before she goes in front of the board and gets approved or denied. If you guys have any concerns, but it will be back in front of you for all the details to make sure all the codes are followed. But right now, she's got a special exception. I didn't want her to spend all the money and everything until for sure we got approved from CTA. So I know this is a lot for this meeting, but again, it's still an informal review. Be back in front of you. It's gritty of the project.
Thank you.
That's
Thank
right.
you. Thank you. I was going to add to that. So, committee, in light of what Christy said and what I discovered here, there's really, because this is the first time we see it, we're not going to be complete. And again, this, like she said, it's totally informal. We'll give you some guidance, but your main task is in front of the board that will grant you special use exception or special exception use. And like Christy says, you'll have to come before us where we'll to the nitty gritty, the details of your engineering. Okay. So what you get today is not the end of it. Is that's what I'm trying to say. It's just your first step. So, David.
Hello. I remember you came in for a pre-application meeting a number of months back.
Yes.
So it looks like you've already hit on some of those points in your introduction regarding noise, waste. I remember lighting was also discussed with you. I did want to bring up, you mentioned, I don't remember this from our first conversation, you mentioned that's going to be artificial turf down.
Not through the whole section because
Okay.
If you look at our facility now, it's very expensive.
Yes, it is.
For that small area, I'll show you. We had a drone go over. It cost us $38,000. It takes us a long time to raise that.
Sure.
So not all of it's going to be artificial turf. It'll be part of a run
Okay.
because
I only bring it up just to point out that so it looks like there's already been some work done, some design work here for detention. Just wanted to point out that you would want to make sure that that artificial turf is reflected in the coverage calculations for the land. That's the only reason I brought that up, just because I don't remember that being discussed before. So if there's going to be artificial turf,
Right.
it typically have its own value of how it interacts with rainfall.
okay, from 2017 until I think it was 4 years, we were able to save up enough money for the turf. We battled grass to even grow grass. When you have 6 giant dogs stomping in your ground,
Sure.
you know, you don't have grass and you have mud, and it's not sanitary for the dogs
Mm-hmm.
because you know what they're running in. It makes more laundry because we lined everything with towels so that it didn't mess up the whole house. So the turf is cleaner, it's more sanitary for the dogs. It's easier to clean up because you can rinse it down. Each run has of our old facility, each run, and it will be this way also, has a water hydrant at the end so everything can get rinsed down so there's no smell, obviously. I don't know.
Very good. That's all I wanted to point out. That was just one difference I picked up on from our pre-app meeting.
Mm-hmm.
How about stormwater, Dave? Any words for the record you want to say? It's because this is taking unbroken ground and putting something on it.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I mean, it looks like they're already well on. I mean, obviously I don't see the numbers behind it, but it looks like, that's being taken into consideration. That there's a design down, so that will be reviewed upon
On their submittal.
right within the full submittal itself.
Anything else?
Yes, sir.
Dan?
They're actually kind of ahead of the game on my thing. They've already talked to the state. We already have specs from the state for a septic system on here. I believe looked at a plan already. So, I mean, they're kind of ahead of the game. So I don't really have much to add. They've kind of handled pretty much what we would ask them already. They've already have the specs from the state and everything. So
Very good. Kevin?
Yeah, as David was mentioning, with the stormwater, I'm a little bit familiar with the artificial grass. Typically, put an irrigation or a drainage system under
it, yes.
the astroturf, so you're removing water. You've got storage. That could be a benefit in doing the overall calculation. Part of the concern I have is the airport is right next door, and we have to be careful about where that water gets expelled. Because unfortunately not everybody hits the runway, and sometimes they're off that side. We've got to keep those areas dry, manage the water as best as possible so we don't have waterfowl congregate along the edges of the runways or in those areas, so they're not flying up and catching the air traffic. The waste you described, you're putting all your waste in a dumpster and having it hauled off? Or,
In the trash, yes.
okay,
That's what we do.
that's what any responsible person does
Well,
to manage the waste product.
correct.
So that's taken care of.
they have a few out here.
You don't have, do you have residential use real close by, or?
It's within 700 and 1,000 feet, depending on how you measure it. To the east, if you see there in the yellow, after the airport, there's residential, and towards the south, after, I guess, the old pet training facility to the south.
That's always a concern because we have had kennels built close to subdivision. Not a good idea typically. This is further away, so you have some ability to abate the noise.
Right.
Kennel, I'm thinking of
People think kennel, you think
balls. Pardon?
When people think kennels, you're thinking 50 dogs.
Right.
We will have 7 dogs.
7 large dogs.
Giant dogs, yeah.
Ponies.
Ponies.
Pretty much. I have them in my house. I have a 250-pound mastiff. We lost one 250-pound mastiff English Mastiff during summertime, Hexie. And then I've got a 160-pound Great Dane. And then I have we just adopted from Giant Paw Prints a puppy. Her litter mates were sold, and she was sent to a kill shelter because she was blind. So we're training her because we used to go to schools.
And
And she'll be about 110 pounds.
I have Labradors, but they produce a lot less poop and they're not as noisy. And we hosted Great Pyrenees and
I had a Great Pyrenees. Oh yeah.
During the holidays, and their bark goes a lot further than my little lab.
Yeah.
So that's just a context, I guess. That normally the big dogs aren't yippers, but boy, when they bark, you hear them. You mentioned water. You're going to be spraying down the AstroTurf for the artificial grass with the.
Well, when you clean up solids,
right,
there's going to be residue, and you don't want a bunch of brown spots all over.
Do you use like a vacuum or something?
Pardon me?
Do you use something similar to vacuum to pick that up? How do you clean?
You just rinse it down through the gravel because there's gravel underneath. It's pretty much. It's about 6 to 8 inches of gravel underneath that turf for drainage, and we just rinse it down.
Imagine over years, then when you replace that, you get a clear filtration.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
I know Westville had an issue with it until the company explained how it worked.
Okay.
And then it was fine.
And I just bring it up because you're designing the detention pond, you want to make sure your flow from your site goes there, including those. You have some kind of treatment process for that pond above and beyond what normal stormwater is, because unfortunately with the solids, it's usually bacteria laden. And here again, it's going off into an adjoining property, albeit it's the airport. We still have to be cognizant they're a neighbor and need to protect them as much as possible. You're going to have lighting out here.
What do you mean by lighting?
Parking lot lighting.
Oh yeah.
Security lighting.
Yes. At our facility, we have outside lights all around. There's security cameras outside, inside. Inside protects the dogs.
It's just something to keep in mind because it's later when you're doing the site review. All these things are possible.
You have to keep your light on your property, as you're probably aware. Okay. Anything else, Kevin?
Not for now.
Martin?
Just doing a quick review of the location. Looks like you do have adequate separation from County Road 200 North, the nearest intersection. That looks good. The only thing I noted on here was that you had the CPP pipe called out, plastic pipe. County standard for within the highway right of way is a CMP, corrugated metal pipe.
That's probably just a typo.
Okay.
We still have some work to do, including the grading. If you look at the grading sheets, it's not finalized yet. So.
Okay. So yeah, 12-inch minimum CMP for our driveways. That's all I had.
Jim?
Concrete's always better.
Concrete's good.
Jim, anything?
No, Martin covered it.
Christy? Monica? Kurt?
Looks good.
Dan's got another thing.
I would just verify with City of Elko, because City of Elko does have well fields out in this area. Just make sure that because since those are considered public water supply, they'd have to be 200 feet from where your septic system is. So I would get in touch with them and verify wherever their well fields are, and just make sure that it's not within 200 feet of where the septic's going to go.
Okay.
Anybody else? You got any questions for us?
I have one question. In regards to the distance to the residential, is that going to pose an issue for us? We do have tree cover on quite a bit of the property, and there's going to be screening on the chain link fence to help with the noise.
I think that's something we'll get in more detail as you develop your development plan.
Okay.
I think the first order of business is to satisfy the next board on your use or your special exception use. So we will meet again.
Sounds good.
We'll go over those details.
All right.
Any other questions you might have for us?
Nope, that's it.
Good luck to you.
Thank you.
Before we adjourn, I got one other brief announcement. In 2025, starting the first of the year, meetings are going to move to Thursday. Yes, you're free to go. I'm sorry. We're going to move meetings to Thursday. Someone grabbed the Tuesday calendar at 9 a.m. before we got there. So we will meet first and third Thursdays of the month as needed at 9 a.m. here. Monica will be sending out an email and post it on the webpage. Does anybody else have anything for the good of the order? Okay, we're adjourned.
I'm gonna have to do some manipulation because these are Thursday mornings. Pardon? Yeah, well, that's why I did PPP.
Huh?
Okay, I didn't know if anyone else did.
Oh,
See, on
I'm flexible.
because the other